Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Factions 101. I am your host, High Top, and we got quite a lot to talk about this week, alright? I'm just going to start off. Basically, one of the biggest things that happened this week is EULA. E-U-L-A, Mojang at its finest. EULA is basically kind of like a server guideline policy that monitors, Minecraft servers to make sure they're following Mojang's, guidelines. Basically, they started taking out servers left, right, and center this past week. You got, huge servers like MMC being banned as well as a couple others. And then, one within the community is Hell MC. There was a huge map going on this weekend on Hell MC. And that map was ended early because of EULA. They were banned for, in my opinion, a pretty dumb reason. Basically, on Tevex, where you buy things on the server so the server makes money, you have to, you have Donator in the, Tevex platform, and basically that they were banned because of it. Pretty wild stuff, I'm not gonna lie. I don't really know what else you're supposed to do. Hell MC was banned. They tried to come back and then they were banned again. So right now Hell MC is trying to figure out what to do because of that. But because of all of this with EULA and all that type of stuff, there was some beef between Hell MC and MC Wars. And basically this is because Hell MC owners, such as Cutter, IG and Jack, and a couple others, mainly driven by Cutter, were under the assumption that Skid, the owner of MC Wars or Gem Yogurt, whichever you know him by, basically reported their server to EULA to get them banned. And so obviously, if I was in Cutter's position, I'd be thinking the same thing. That's pretty fucked, I'm not gonna lie. But Skid went into my DMs and made sure to illustrate his case, as well as make an announcement in the MC Wars public Discord about him having nothing to do with it. And at the end of the day, we're not really gonna have any idea. Cutter's pretty convinced that it was Skid, and Skid has a decent story to back up him not being involved. And so it's basically just gonna fall down to who you believe. There's not really solid proof against either person to say that either Skid did report it or he didn't. I'd like to think he didn't, because that's a pretty fucked thing to do if he were to have reported it. And so I think Skid's a cool guy, so I'm hoping that he didn't do that. He might be a little salty towards a lot of the Hell MC people, but if he were to have reported them to EULA to get them banned, that's almost crossing a line, in my opinion. The game mode needs players, it needs servers, and reporting servers just to kill it even more is just not the way to go about it. Regardless, shit was wild. LMC was ended a day early, which I'll get into the information on the map itself a little later. But LMC was banned, and their new map that was supposed to release this Saturday was delayed because they can't find a way to get themselves unbanned. But that's as far as that goes with EULA. Moving on, we got some huge news on Minecadia. Basically last week, it was back and forth between randoms and NPC, and NPC was actually like a good bit ahead of randoms. I said on the last episode that randoms won 2 raid events, but NPC ended up winning both of them, I think. And that's pretty wild, to say the least. NPC either split them or they won both of them. Regardless, NPC was way ahead. They were a few thousand points ahead, and were looking like they were really gonna win the map unless something crazy happened. And well, something crazy happened. Randoms ended up sniping NPC's base, so they took a third of their points, basically making it impossible for NPC to win the map. It was going to take a miracle for NPC to win after losing a third of their points and being down miles on F-top. But basically, because of this, all hell broke loose. Basically, NPC saw it as an illegal raid, right? And so the reason that they saw it as an illegal raid is because randoms had multiple raid claims on the side that they shot from to snipe, which is against the rules. You're not allowed to have multiple raid claims, but the staff deemed it as, it didn't affect enough to, to justify a full rollback. And so, the staff went a few days and they were just talking over, trying to figure out what they were going to do. Rightfully so. It was illegal in the sense of, they were using more raid claims, but they sniped. Would that raid claim really have mattered? we don't really know at the end of the day. You know, NPC is saying they didn't check where the cannon was that they got sniped with, because they were only checking the raid claims that they saw in front of their base that were illegal. And so, you know, that's a valid argument from NPC, but it's also a valid argument saying randoms probably nothing would have really changed, even if they were using the same raid claim they wanted. But you never really know at the end of the day. To say the least, staff decision was made, and it was basically that NPC was going to get a third of their points back. All right, and so that basically means the third of their points that they lost, which I think was about 13,000, something like that, maybe more. It might have been 23,000. I can't really remember. But regardless, they were going to get a third of the points they lost back. And so basically, they were still going to be in a pretty deep hole and really didn't have a great, you know, shot at winning the map. And so this basically, you know, just fucked over everyone in NPC. It was wild. NPC got upset, and they just got themselves DQ'd the day after the decision was made. When they started, when randoms tried to shoot at NPC just started going fucking berserk. They started gen patching. They made a 45. They were printer patching in wilderness, you know, shooting in wilderness, chunk busting, all this type of shit. And, you know, admin just rolled on and was like, listen, this is too much. You're DQ'd. And so that is, you know, the end of randoms versus NPC. Randoms has come out on top. And, you know, unless randoms finds a way to get sniped like NPC did, you know, randoms are going to find themselves winning another map on Minecadia. Another thing to go over real quick on Minecadia is, you know, one of the managers at PvP Labs, IG and Jack, has been blacklisted from all Cadian networks after seemingly, you know, nothing much. You know, Jack is a little bit of a troll, and he, you know, likes to, you know, comment in the Cadia Discord every now and then. But, you know, he said something to one of the staff that, you know, didn't really warrant any punishment or whatever, and it resulted in him getting banned from Minecadia Discord, Viper MC Discord, and blacklisted from both networks, which is pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie. As well as PvP Labs itself, the word being banned from all things Cadia related, Viper MC, Cadia, all that type of stuff. It is banned. You cannot say that, or you will be muted or timed out in the Discord. So pretty wild stuff regarding Minecadia this week. But, you know, not slowing down at all. Hell MC map was crazy. Honestly, one of the, you know, most competitive maps I've seen in a while. There were 3-4 factions that were really just going at it the whole time. You had Yakuza, who just dominated the whole Grace in most of TNT. They were just, you know, F-top won by a mile. It didn't seem like they were going to lose. And then you had Ego with a handful of value. You had Pandillas, who were at 3. And you know, they were still, you know, pushing, working strong. And then you had Cypher at number 4, who was really far behind in value, but seemed like they were some of the most skilled players on the server, and they were going to have a shot to win it. And win it they did. Basically what happens is through TNT, Cypher just, you know, fucking went wild, all right? So they ended up basically raiding half of the comp. They raided Yakuza, and they raided Pandillas, and they almost raided Short Bus, Ego, but, you know, they were sided very close to breaching Ego's buffer. Regardless, you know, the kind of story that happened during TNT is the first day of TNT, Cypher ended up raiding Yakuza. But Yakuza got a rollback because I think it was 3 or 4 of the Cypher members that were online for the raid ended up being banned, which resulted in a rollback for Yakuza, giving them another shot. The following day, Cypher was not able to shoot at Yakuza because Ego was shooting at them the whole time. They were keeping them on timer. They were shooting back and forth. Ego kept trying to get a cannon up and raid them, but they just weren't finding that much success, and it just made it to where Cypher was not going to be able to shoot at them for that day. The following day happens, and basically, Cypher finally does it. They finally split Yakuza. And it was about a 2-hour raid. Right before they were gonna split, they're about, I think, maybe 2 chunks off, maybe even less. Yakuza ended up siding illegally, and the raid was frozen. It could have easily just been given to Cypher, but you know, the staff team decided that it was best if they, you know, let him patch out the last 2 chunks. And, you know, shortly after the raid was unfrozen, you know, Cypher was in Yakuza's base, giving them all their value. But crazy thing is that even with all the value that Yakuza had, Cypher had so many strikes and so many bans that they had a ton of value deduction. It was about a 50% value deduction, might have been 60, I can't remember, but they had a big value deduction, and they were behind on F-top to Ego, and they had to raid Ego the next day in order to win the map. But that is when Eula played a part in the map and shut down the map for good. You know, they got banned initially. The domain was switched and the server was back up, and then it was banned again, making the map end early, which ended up being a tie between Ego and Cypher. That's what the staff team decided. It was going to be a tie between Ego and Cypher, and Yakuza was going to get third. You know, a pretty understandable decision from the staff team, as you really don't know what would have happened for the rest of that TNT that the map was cut short of. So that was Hell MC. Very wild, great map. Personally, I staffed on it myself. It was a joy to watch. You know, I really enjoyed it, and you know, I'm looking forward to more maps like that in the future. And then, you know, another just crazy event that happened on a map was Liquid MC. This was a two-man's map, and it was basically IRA versus Pandillas. And basically, IRA dominated, you know, as they have every map they've played before. But Pandillas, you know, they put up a little bit of a fight, but there was, you know, a lot of stuff that happened. Basically, what happened is SJ Trappy, who is a Pandillas, you know, guy. It was a two-man. It was him and one other guy who were really running the faction. So it wasn't, you know, quite Pandillas, but it was two of the guys from there. They were trying to win, and basically they got banned, but were unbanned, you know, as, you know, the server wanted to keep players, and they let them get unbanned shortly after. Basically what happened is, you know, SJ Trappy and his member decided to ask, you know, if shields are disabling. You know, knowing if, you know, what would happen. And basically, the assumption was always that shields were not disabling. The owner of Liquid MC said that himself. Shields are not going to disable, and so that's perfectly fine. But what ended up happening is SJ Trappy's faction kind of tried to pull a fast one. Not going to lie. It's kind of trying to pull a fast one. Basically, they grinded enough value one of the last days of TNT to get F-Top 1. But, you know, usually that'd be totally fine, you know. You grind value, you win the map. But they disbanded their faction and remade their faction so that they would not be off-shield for the rest of the map. So, obviously, you know, that's a little unfair, which means, you know, the owners at Liquid MC had to take it into their own hands. It was all a mess because Liquid's, you know, rules are kind of fucked. I'm not going to lie. The rules aren't very good, you know, at explaining what's allowed and what's not. Regardless, SJ Trappy's faction was disbanded because of this, as the owner deemed it not fair, and the rules were just messed up all over the place, which led to IRA winning. So basically, SJ Trappy's faction tried to pull a fast one, place value, never go off shield and win the map that way. But, you know, the owner found that as, you know, unfair, which he disbanded the faction and gave the win to IRA. You know, it's a decision that, you know, I'm not too upset with, I'd say. I think it makes sense that, you know, if a faction places a ton of value last day of TNT and switches their shield so that they can't get raided, it kind of makes sense to just give the raid or give the map to the opposite faction because they really didn't have a chance to do anything. But it also goes on the server itself with, you know, not great staff communication between players, and also the rules being just a little, you know, out of pocket sometimes regardless. But that's basically all the maps that were going on now. There are some other maps going on, such as Carnage, which, you know, some stuff happened, but nothing too you know, major to really warrant coverage on this episode. But then you got, you know, your upcoming maps for this coming week, which is pretty stacked, I'm not gonna lie. So first, this weekend, you know, this is releasing on Sunday. Maps that came out Friday and Saturday beforehand are MC Wars and Cannoning MC. MC Wars, 7-mans, more kind of casual comp style. It's kind of hard to explain. I've been trying it out a little bit. I think it's pretty fun, so I've enjoyed it. Cannoning MC has also released its 3-mans map, and, you know, there's a handful of people playing that and seeing what that's like. But then you have, you know, two Titan servers releasing at the end of the week on Friday. You have Mindcadia and you have PvP Labs. You know, two servers that are just trying to battle out each other's player base. Labs is trying to, you know, take over Cadia, and Cadia is trying to, you know, keep their throne per se. But yeah, they have 2 maps releasing. Labs has an insane changelog that has happened. They have changed so much around the server. Cadia has yet to announce their changelog, but it is, you know, it is rumored that the next map will be 10-mans, which some people are happy about, some people are not. So we're going to have to see how that goes for the upcoming maps. Alright, and on to this week's power rankings. Just beforehand, we will have Clown of the Week and MVP of the Week afterwards as the new segments. But we're going to get into the power rankings. And so obviously you got the floaters first. I included these last week, so I'll include these now. You have a similar floater that was of last week is Wool. Haven't really done anything since last week, but I think they warrant being in that floater position as they are kind of peeking in. And it's rumored that they might be splitting up for the next map of PvP Labs, so Wool might not be a faction by this time next week. We'll have to figure that out, and we might have to include someone else or whatnot. But right now I have Wool and Pandillas as the two floaters. Pandillas was at the number 5 spot last week, but with the Hell MC results, I think that the 3 factions that kind of basically beat them, that placed on Hell MC, deserve spots ahead of Pandillas. Pandillas still a very good faction, still proving themselves, still improving, and they'll find themselves further up the rankings soon, I'm sure. And then at number 5, I basically have to kind of go over 3, 4, and 5 at the same time, as they all were involved at Hell MC. And then my opinion might be a little controversial, I'm not going to lie. So basically at 3 you have Cypher, 4 you have Yakuza, and 5 you have Ego. So this is a little out of ordinary. First of all, Cypher at 3, it is basically Cypher / IRA. I know they're different factions per se, but they have a lot of the same members. I'm not going to give 2 spots to a faction that plays comp that have a lot of the same members. So Cypher / IRA are about the kind of same faction in my eyes. I'm not going to give 2 different spots for them, as well as I'll get to the other one a little later. But basically, Cypher and Ego won the map. So in theory, Cypher and Ego should be 3 and 4. But in my opinion, I think a lot of people would agree with this. If Cypher doesn't exist, right? If Cypher doesn't play the Hell MC map, I believe Yakuza would have won. There was no signs of Ego really posing a threat to Yakuza to raid them, and they had to raid them to win. And I don't think that would have happened. And so for that reason alone, I'm putting Yakuza ahead of Ego. The Ego defended their base against Yakuza and Cypher. They did that perfectly fine. But Cypher ended up raiding Yakuza, which allowed them to win, which is why Cypher is at number 3. They did what they needed to do to win the map. So they kind of proved themselves as the best faction. You could say Ego is the second best faction, but if Cypher doesn't exist, I don't think they beat Yakuza. And so I think that just shows that Yakuza is better than them at this moment in time. And so that's going to put Ego at 5, Yakuza at 4, and Cypher at 3. This coming, this week at MC Wars, the 3 factions, another Cypher kind of like branch off faction is playing, as well as Yakuza and Ego and another faction are playing MC Wars. And so we're going to have basically a round 2 of Hell MC, and we're going to see what happens with that, which we will cover next week. And if Ego can find themselves on top of that, they'll move up to number 3. I mean, that's just how it is. It's how these maps go. They'll change each week. And then going into the top 2 now, nothing much has changed. You got number 2 Meatheads, and then number 1 Randoms. Nothing has changed there, but these factions are still neck and neck. There's Randoms just prove that they can beat their comp when they're not winning Grace. Meatheads has almost lost every single Grace in PvP Labs, but they found a way to win. Randoms have now lost a Grace in Mycadia and have found a way to win. So both factions have proven themselves to be just top notch and really just not back down from anything. It's only guaranteed that we're going to see a map between these 2 factions very soon, whether it's on PvP Labs or on Mycadia. But yeah, that's basically the power rankings for the week. If you have a different order, which I'm sure a lot of y'all might have, throw it in the comments. Tell me what your top 5 would be if it's any different. Alright, and on to our new segment of the week. We have Clown of the Week. So there were a handful of submissions for this. I'm going to go over 2 basically. So the first one is Sendrilla calling Minty Daddy. Alright, it speaks for itself. I'll throw the clip on the screen right now.
Kill him.
Call me daddy.
Kill him, Minty.
Call me daddy.
Wait, daddy.
But pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie. This was on MC Wars Barbaric Realm. Just Clown of the Week type of stuff. And then another submission and kind of thing is, it's not really a Clown of the Week as much of a fucked of the week. Is basically a Reaper, one of the Ego members, was basically token logged and kind of went around just nuking Eco's public, nuking their privates, all this type of shit. So it wasn't Reaper's fault. People thought it was Pandilla's doing it. Pandilla's made an official announcement in their Discord saying they had nothing to do with it and they stand with Reaper. Regardless, it was a pretty fucked scenario. So it's not necessarily clown of the week. I would put the clown as the person who token logged them. We don't know who that is though. But regardless, it was a pretty fucked situation. Hoping that Reaper finds, all of his information back and he gets, a hold of his account again. But we'll see what happens with that. And then moving on to MVP of the week is from Hell MC. You're going to have What the Fuck Vape and LLKV citing Yakuza and Cypher multiple times right before they could breach. It seemed like every time that Ego was attempted, What the Fuck Vape and LKV found a way to side, their attackers, basically. They sided Yakuza a handful of times, and they sided Cypher a handful of times. They really just, frankly, carry their faction. I don't think, without Vape and LKV, Ego would have been raided. I don't think there's a doubt in anyone's mind that, they prevented them from getting raided, just carrying sides and getting in each of their attackers' cannon boxes. So, that is just about it for the episode. If you have more submissions for MVP or Clown of the Week next week, go ahead and throw those in the description, or go ahead and throw those in the Discord that's in the description. Make a ticket and submit your entries. And then, once again, continue with your own power rankings. Let me know what you're thinking. And if you have any news throughout the week, make a ticket in our Discord, and we will be sure to include it on the next episode of Factions 101.